Well, thank you guys for having me. Again, my name is Timothy Shaw, and I'm the Information Success Coordinator at McCumber Well Service, which is an incredibly made-up job title. McCumber Well Service is a very small company. Basically, we are a oil and gas well servicing company. And so being in a small company, there's a lot of roles, so I kind of just made up a name that kind of took everything. But I basically handle all the IT, all the data. If it has electricity and it moves ones and zeros, that's kind of what I do. So I'm the only person that does it there too. So I'm a team of one there doing all this. And then I'm also a super user on the Microsoft Power Apps forums. My handle there is YOTim. So if you're on there, you can give me a shout.
And just one thing to also mention, Tim, you'll be presenting at the symposium too on June 8th. So you're going to have an awesome workshop session then on get a quick start with SVGs.
Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of tied a little bit to this. So that's great. That's great plug. So yeah, come on by for that.
And one more thing, you can minimize in that bottom right corner. If you minimize that Teams thing, there you go.
Thank you. All right. Good call.
And I will shut up now.
Okay, no, that's perfect. That's perfect. And by all means, any questions or comments, anything, people feel free to chime on in. So I just figured I'd hit the why topic, and that was already kind of covered, but there are three kind of things that I came up with, and identity is a big one. So basically just, if you need to identify a work group, department, something like that, a role that someone has, they're very handy for that. Recognition is a big one. If someone has a particular training or certification earned, that's show off as well. But the main thing that I'll be focusing on is the encouragement piece, and that is basically just all about that positive reinforcement of things that you want to happen more. So just to get kind of our shopping list of some things that we'll need, and some of these kind of seem obvious, but even though they're obvious, they're not always so easy. So first thing you need is something to measure, and that's deceptively simple, I think, sometimes, because you may find that with any kind of measurement, you might not actually be measuring the thing that you want or something like that. So that's kind of the starting point for that. You also need a way to quantify that measurement, and that could be something as easily as like an on-off switch, like a Boolean thing. It could be a percentage of progress on that, or it could just be a simple count. And I'm going to add this in that with this kind of solution that I'm proposing here, you can optionally store it in like a database, like we use Azure SQL, but there's also ways that you can actually embed this stuff into a graphic with SVGs. And if we have time and if you guys want to see that, I can kind of show how that pans out. But that's kind of one benefit of SVGs, is that they are really versatile. So there's that. And then you'll need badges, of course, that are tied to those quantified conditions so that you can surface the icon. And then you'll need to know about filters and galleries and image objects, and just have a kind of a working knowledge of that. So we'll kind of cover all these things here. So we'll get right into the demo, and I will start off by showing. There we go. I'll minimize this guy again. So right here is our employee portal app, and I kind of put a demo mode into this, kind of for this and other presentations. So all of my stuff you can see, so you can kind of get a sense of how that actually looks, but everybody else's information is a little more scrambled. And I wrote this algorithm for it, and I realized later that there's a lot of duplicates. So either I did a really good job or maybe not so good a one, but I don't know. We'll see about that. But at the start here, being in the oil and gas realm, it's a high hazard occupation for our guys. They're working with heavy equipment, and it moves very fast. It's very powerful. They're pulling tens of thousands of pounds of pipe and liquid and things out of the ground. And so it's so safety is a really big thing. So right at the top here, we've got this submit a good catch button. And what that does when they click that, it brings them to this form that they fill out. And a good catch is something where they find a hazardous condition or something that would have been hazardous, and they stop work and address the hazard. So this is a way that they can report that, like self-report it, and we kind of have a program to recognize that. So that was one of the big things that influenced this, that we definitely want to not only have a reward program, but we want to have ways to recognize people that are doing that. So that's kind of one thing that we're measuring. And then to go down here, this part of this app, and I guess I should back up and say this app, being an employee portal, basically it's a place where people can maintain their own information, like contact information, address, phone number, that sort of thing. We also have a news platform with notifications, and then just basic resources. So we'll kind of see a few of those screens here. And I'll go right to the news thing, because this kind of houses the other thing that we thought would be important to measure. So just to kind of explain this is grayed out because I am a news editor and I can see news items that are in the hopper that aren't released yet. So that's why that one's gray. But yeah, we just have kind of a news section here, and I'll bring up a particular one. This is actually the news event for the launch of the training of this portal here. And so you see we've kind of got some social things here. They can like or dislike news stories. And there's a little gallery here that showcases those. And that's kind of in like chronological order. If they were to dislike it, it would have a little light blue frowny face there for that. They can also comment, and this kind of has like a threaded messenger type of look to it. So I just click that and add a little comment. I won't do that because basically all these do have notifications built in. So if you like or dislike something, it kicks off an email to the author. And then if you comment on something, it emails the author and anyone else who has commented there. So we wanted to track comments and kind of reinforce that, because we definitely want people talking. And we wanted to track kind of the likes and dislikes as well. And we also have one that tracks news stories, because we thought it would be good to recognize people who are giving news stories and offering stuff like that, and eventually open that up to all employees so that they could submit a news item, and then they'll get that badge. So we'll jump right into the badges here. And this is the badge screen. So got my stats here, which are I don't have the highest numbers because I'm spending more time building it, I guess, than using it. So, but track the comments, good catches, just their overall sentiment count, and then the like ratio there, and then how many news items they've done. And this is the gallery that kind of showcases those, and you can click on one of these to bring it up and see the name, the condition, all that stuff there.
Hey, Tim, how'd you ideate the different things to make the badges with, or, how'd you make your icons?
So that I actually kind of borrowed some inspiration because about this time, the Power Apps forums were kind of rebadging and doing all that. And so I kind of just looked at what they had done. I looked at a few other things. So like Xbox achievement icons actually kind of helped too.
Cool.
Yeah, so just taking from that. So that's a great question. Yeah. So I'll show this to you where there's 3 places in the app where these badges are surfaced. This one is kind of just the badge page, and it's the summary and shows all the badges that have been earned.
Are you getting people asking you for custom badges over and over and again now?
Not yet. No, that's the thing. Being in oil and gas and in Wyoming in particular, they're not too big on that. So this is this has kind of been a social experiment of sorts for our company. So hopefully, I really do hope people do that. And I think as we add more categories, that will actually take off, and we'll hopefully see that. So
don't get yourself stuck in a hole.
Yeah,
could be all you do.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. So here I'm going to go to the My Info section, and this is again just where all of the employees' information is. They can check their benefits and see things like cost breakdowns, see their vacation days and what they've taken. They can check their hours, see their schedule, stuff like that. But we're going to go into the profile here. And there's me, and here are the badges I've earned, along with this tenure badge here, which I don't have implemented into this whole system yet. I probably will go back. This is actually the first thing that I started, and then all the rest followed. So it's a little bit different there. If we click on that, though, we can see that it's just got tenure badge, a great name, and then it shows my tenure in years. And this badge, basically this icon, has the logic for 35 years worth of tenure, and I'll show some of the other variations of that. But that's an example where basically all that logic is stored in there, and it just takes this tenure and goes for that. But this shows just the top badge earned in each category there. So they just get that summary. And then over here in the resources section, which this is where they can just find all the documents, videos, things like that. And got a little app store in there as well, actually, which is kind of fun. But basically, we go to this employee directory, and for each employee, it shows their tenure badge and then all the other badges that they've earned, which is kind of fun. I was, again, hoping to kind of generate, some contact on this and maybe get some healthy competition or something going. But one thing that I will comment on this, that from just a kind of a design perspective that I thought was important, I really wanted any new hires to already have badges. So you can see this is our 0-year tenure badge, and there is this no sentiment shared. And I just thought that was kind of important, because not only does it kind of have an inclusive feel, that like there's not an empty space by their name, but also it kind of signals things that they can do. And so hopefully using these badges as kind of an advertisement for more engagement and stuff like that.
Everyone's a winner.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. To some degree. So
is this the standard way people look each other up on your, like, for the directory? So are they like very often seeing this?
Yeah, and actually they will be seeing this increasingly so. Well, I can just click on somebody. So this is kind of the implementation of this. That there are these contact buttons, and there's actually even a favoriting system too, that they can make favorite contacts. And on the homepage, there's just a one-click link. But this was something that was just suggested and just rolled it out, where they wanted to see basically like rigs that people have worked on, because not all of our rigs are standardized. And so they'll basically be coming here to look up experience that people have. So if somebody goes to a different rig, they'll be able to see how much experience they have on it, and be able to kind of pull them into the team a little easier with that, as well as like what positions and things they've worked, and then job type, which this will have to be expanded, but yeah, that's where that is. So this section is going to get a lot more visibility here, whereas before it was just purely a contact screen. But and another thing about this is that this is one of my favorite badges here, because with reinforcing things, we definitely didn't just want to reinforce likes. We don't just want to have a positive shine on everything. And so I thought it was really important to create fun badges that are on the other side of the coin there, where people are disliking things, because they're still giving feedback, and that's great. That's important, and we definitely want to encourage that. So just thought I'd show that badge. That's one of my favorites.
And it also tells a little bit about the individual too. Before you give them an email or give them a call, maybe before you reach out to a realist, have
yes.
your
yeah, that is a great
have
point.
Your story together.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, so that is kind of the app, and kind of how we put that in. And these badges are also showed off in our employee management app, that's basically an Office Power App that handles all employee information, basically. So there's a separate screen for that. So those are kind of showed, and we're hoping to make these something that's not only useful but fun, and builds on that engagement piece.
We have a great question. Assuming this is on a phone, does the app work with the phone to place calls or text messages?
Yes, it does. So with this, and oh, no work history, that's a new hire. So you can click on these and it will pull up the dialer, and you can also click on this and it will pull up the SMS app. And that is through the launch function. So it's a pretty easy way that you can launch a phone number, launch SMS, all that.
I think that's a huge thing to save. I mean, when you're looking at device integration, when you're making a mobile app, the fact that you can talk to a device, I mean, just out of the box using a function in Power Apps and it works.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Think of the hours it would take to make a mobile app like that without Power Apps.
Yeah. And that's the thing that's really quite amazing. And Lucas did touch on this, but from a small business perspective, this gives us capabilities that we would never have. I mean, it just wouldn't be possible. And it's really simple. So it's an amazing thing. Yeah, so that's a great question. So I thought I would do a quick little run through of how I made these badges, and hopefully this will be something I don't know that might let me see here. How do I need to go? Might inspire some creativity in other people too. So I'm in a blank PowerPoint presentation here. And what I'm going to do is show you guys how we can quickly make an icon. I'm just going to delete this stuff. We are going to make a square icon. So you can actually set a custom slide size. And we'll just do 7.5 square. So that's pretty easy. This doesn't matter, but we'll do that. All right, and one other thing we're going to do, we can format this background so that's totally transparent, so we don't have just a white square. And we'll just start inserting some shapes here. And one thing I do think PowerPoint deserves the Power name, because not only is it great for presentations and the stuff that it's really built for, but it's actually a super great graphical program. Like it's super easy to make, not only like things like this, but you can make other types of icons and all sorts of stuff in here. So I think it really deserves the Power part of its name. So
after our first session, Tim, I started using PowerPoint a whole lot more.
Oh yeah,
a couple of weeks back. Yeah, absolutely. I'm using it. So
great.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Yeah, it's seriously really cool. I know this is one thing I do wish that more people knew about, because it makes, again, for us being a small company, being able to do stuff like this, do it rapidly and have it be of a good quality, it's really important, and not something that has always been. So
absolutely. Yeah, I don't have Photoshop, so it was PowerPoint or Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. Doing this in Paint, that'd be fun. So we'll show how to do kind of a two-tone effect. This is kind of a fun thing, but I'm going to get this semicircle tool, and obviously, I mean, I'm sure most people have done PowerPoint at some point. But just to point out, like, one of the cool things is that it does have that snap to grid thing built in. So it makes stuff like this super easy. Let's see, get that. I say super easy, then I'm struggling with that. So we will make this the vertical half like that. And yeah, that looks about right. Okay. So in the shape fill, we can go to more colors and put the hex in there. Right. And then we can set a transparency. So that 80%, and then we need to remember to remove the outline. And so this is really nice because it gives us that two-tone effect, and then we only need to change one thing to keep that, as long as we don't go to white. We'll always have that kind of two-tone effect there. So now we'll insert some icons, and this is something that I think was recently updated. because when I started this process, there weren't this many icons, but there are tons in here, which is, again, really awesome if you just need to stamp some graphics out or something. There's tons of stuff in there, lots of fun stuff. So we're going to build a low-code centric app. So we're gonna bash on binary here for some reason. Not that binary has much to do with coding these days. I don't think anybody codes in binary, right? And oops, I want to change the color here. Do that white to get a high contrast. Make this a little cheeky. No, I don't want that. Get the no shape here. There we are. Yeah. So any questions while I'm doing this, or any other
You're
things?
Just putting on a clinic right now.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. Well, and this again, this is such an easy thing to use. Again, us being a small company, this is great, but I think this is also great for any big company or any power user where, maybe a project doesn't need a graphics department behind it, and you just need to stomp some stuff out, or maybe you want to make some custom icons for your app and just have a really nice consistent look. It's really great here. So we're going to put a text box in here, and we are going to say code rookie. And we'll format our text here, make it bigger. And one thing that I will comment just on this as a bit of a preview of things to come. Let's see, we'll do 60. Working with text in these does have some caveats that you'll want to be aware of if you try this on your own. Basically, when you convert this to an SVG, which is a scalable vector graphic, it takes this text as a text object. So your font choice will matter, especially if you're doing this in Power Apps, because Power Apps has a limited amount of fonts. So if you choose something it doesn't know, it will default to Arial. So that's just a little tip there. So let's see, we will get this white. All right, so we've got a nice little badge here that we made. If we want to stamp out versions of this, this is again where this is so nice and easy, because we can duplicate this slide, and then we just have to change a couple things. So let's do master here, master, and let's change the color of this. Go to this nice dark blue here, and we'll do one more just to show how easy this is again. And we'll go Ninja. And because it's the Ninja, we're going to change this to
Ninja.
black. Yeah, yep, gotta go Ninja. All right, so there, in not much time, with very little effort, we've just created 3 graphics that are pretty cool. I hope, yeah.
What a sweet trick.
Yeah, and so here comes the real magic right here. So we've made that, but how are we going to get this into our app? So there's a couple ways you can do this. I'll show kind of the longer way. So if we go to export, there's this change file type. And so we'll select this, and it shows these 2 image file types here. You can do PNG or JPEG. Well, if we go to save as another file type and then click save as, which then this is basically just the save as screen. So you can do that. Click here, and down here at the bottom is scalable vector graphics format. So we'll click on that. And we'll say, oh, we're going desktop. Yeah, we are. Okay, so we'll save that here. And it'll ask, do we want to do everything or just the one? So we're going to say all of them. And say, it says, okay, we did that. So let's go to the background here. And this is that folder we just made. And we've got 3 slides. And if we open these, there's our graphic. And then furthermore, we right click on this and we open with, and we can open it in Notepad. You could do any kind of text editor thing or code, but we'll go Notepad because everybody's got Notepad. And this is the code for that graphic right here. So there's one other step we need to take before we put it in, and we basically want to replace all of the double quotes with single quotes. And that's, if you've worked with Power Apps, you know that The double quote is how you wrap text. And so if there's a bunch of double quotes in text, it's going to delineate those as starts and ends, and you're going to get a bunch of errors. Single quotes will basically smooth all that out. So now this right here is ready to be put in a data source or something like that. And I thought I could show this, like I took some screenshots. So this right here is the SQL table where our badges are stored. And it's pretty simple. That badge icon is right in here. And it's basically just stored as text, which is really amazing because not only is it pretty lightweight as a graphic, like it doesn't take much time to like pull it in as if you're, unless you're working with a JPEG or something like that, it's going to take some more time. But this is super fast and light. But you can also do like string replacement stuff on it. So let's say that like there's a color, like the border, that black border. If we want to change that, we can actually do that using like a substitute command in there. So we've got our graphic, we've got the code for that, and we don't need to do anything to this right now. We can basically just put that in. I'll move over to a little demo app here.
That's so cool. You could put everything in Notepad right there. I saw like all the F's for white. So
yeah. So yeah, you can kind of actually see where those things are.
Yeah.
And if you're familiar with HTML at all, you can also kind of tell that like they're like starting and end things here, and you can kind of make out the structure. And I will actually show a little bit of that here. So this is just a little demo app to kind of show it off. And so this is going to mimic the data source, but you could also, if you want to store these graphics and import them from Excel or do something like that, they can live exclusively in an app or something. I mean, you've got a lot of freedom with that. But this is just basically that code kind of put in a copy paste way. Right here, I basically just kind of did line breaks where all of these wraps are at. So you can kind of see that. Makes it a little taller, but you can kind of tell what's going on.
Does the format text clean that up like that?
What's that?
Does the format text automatically make it nice, or do you have to?
No,
because that's for Power Apps formatting, right?
Yeah. With text, it doesn't. It sees it as one big chunk, so it might indent it over, but just the whole text block. So yeah, so this is a lot of just me hitting enter and stuff. So and then this right here, as with anything that is like a generated code thing, there's usually stuff that isn't really necessary, you don't need. So I kind of cleaned it up and basically just put all the breaks and groupings in there. So that's kind of the best case, cleanest scenario right there. So that's kind of what that looks like. And without getting in too much into like the SVG, but all these little M and let's see, there should be Z's and stuff there that constitute breaks. Those are basically object shapes. So these are, it's basically like Euclidean geometry, so like a 2D space, and it's got a size, and these are just coordinates, and it's basically telling it how to draw whatever it is. So it's really, not too bad of a thing once you kind of wrap your head around that. It's not the worst thing. But again, it's text. So if we want to change any of these values, we can do a substitute and totally change the color or what have you. Again, with text, so this is the text. This is where it does get a little tricky because, again, it is like a 2D plane. So whatever you put in here, it's going to like start and end on those coordinates. So if you put something in that's longer or something, you might get some funky results. So that's just a thing to know. Yeah, so let's take a look at this. So we'll load that in. Oh, and I left my measured value thing in there. So basically, we'll do this. We've just got some really basic filtering going on to show these. And we'll show if we go 10, then it'll just show those. If, say, we're at 9, then we'll just have that one. And this is all that it really is a pretty simple filter statement. So we're looking at the count that's associated with that badge and saying, okay, if the value that we're checking against is less than or equal to that, then we want to show it in this gallery. And that's kind of how we show all the ones that are below and up to what they've earned. If we're going for just showing the highest earned badge, it gets a little trickier. So to render that SVG code, let me just say this too, you need this little chunk right here. So you need to basically tell it what that data is and then encode that all that chunk of stuff that we got as a URL so it can interpret that. And I would like to shout out Antoinette on this because we spoke about this a while back. And what I had been doing, because I didn't really know about this encode URL, was I was getting basically that code, and I was going and finding a converter and converting it to a URL and then like storing that. And she pointed out this much easier and simpler way. So thank you, Antoinette. That saved me a ton.
Nice.
So then from there on, there's just a simple lookup, and we're using kind of the same condition here. Basically just find the one. Oh, and yeah, let me say this. Let me backtrack real quick. We did have to sort this one by descending so that we could use that same code because we want to find just the biggest one that matches that criteria. So we sort by descending and then just check that count, and there we go. So
smart.
Yeah. So any questions, anything about that or anything related?
Yeah, feel free to come off mute, throw something in the chat. If not, we keep going. I'll point a question out if one comes.
All right. Well, and that well, that's actually the main thing. I kind of cruised through that a bit. So that's, yeah, again, I guess just to kind of wrap up, I'll go back to this. Didn't hit the Y side much. That tends maybe more in the HR realm. But I hope that maybe has kind of given some ideas, maybe for ways that you could implement some badging and ways that you could pull it off really quickly and easily. And again, this is not at all impressive given what Lucas shared with their time frame. But for me to implement this, it took less than 2 working days from the ideation phase to having it fully rolled out in app. So it is something, because of just how the Power Platform works, that you can do these things rapidly and get them out there. So yeah.
Congratulations, Tim.
Thank you.
I'm trying with my
Anybody
pinkies.
else wants to jump in with us?
Yeah, that's pretty nifty.
You got praise from
Congratulations.
Brian Grant, our big design guy.
Yeah.
How much time had you spent kind of working in this development before actually doing that 2-day run?
Like my whole time with Power Apps?
Yes.
Well, I've actually basically been working with it since it went GA, since it came out. We were pretty lucky that it came out right at the right time for what we needed. I guess I'll stop sharing this screen. So it had been, what is that, about 3 years or so, I guess. So
maybe a better question is, how many apps had you kind of developed before this?
Before this, so this, I think this was number 13. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And this, about half of those were kind of smaller widget type apps. So like people needed to be able to audit some information really quickly or something like that. So a lot of it was pretty small. This was the first company-wide app that we released.
Is your company grandfathered in on the SQL connector, or are you guys paying for premium?
We are grandfathered in for right now. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Which
That's
is
huge. Really
awesome. But to give the owners of this company that I work for credit, when all that change went down, which was actually, so I think that I completed this app. I think it was really late September, and then October, I think, was when they announced it, or maybe they announced it like around that time. And so I kind of had to go to them, with my head slumped down and say, hey, this is going to get a lot more expensive. And they had no qualms about it, because really the price versus the value that you get, especially for us, there's no comparison there. So they're willing to put it down, but thankfully we've got some time.
And that pricing really is just $10 a head for those that are using the premium connector, and it seems like everybody would be then.
Yes. Everybody would user. Be. Yeah. But and again, I mean, I think Microsoft gets a lot for the licensing stuff and all that and the cost, but for even us as a small business, like if we can save like an hour of time a month, then that's worth it, and we more than do that, just having people be able to handle their own information and stuff like that, besides all the cultural gains and stuff from having the communication piece and all that. So
yeah, and I think there's a lot to say to the platform, just the investment they're making. I mean, the fact that you don't have to work with, device integrations and just the capabilities of the platform they're investing in. I think people lose sight of that as soon as they start seeing license dollars. And so it's really great to see, you and your organization, kind of just digging deep and saying, nope, this makes sense, and seeing the wins from it.
Yeah, it's been great. And I really, that is something I would like to put out there for smaller companies, that it's amazing, and the gains are out of sight, because we get the same benefit that every large company gets. So it's awesome.
Cool. Does anybody else have other questions? I'm here monitoring the chat, or if anybody wants to go off mute.
Well, this is Antoinette. I don't have any questions. I was just, Tim, every time we talk, like, I'm blown away. I've not even used PowerPoint. You and I've gone down the SVG path, kind of checking in now and then, but I was blown away by PowerPoint. And Tim's probably too humble to say, but also his Power BI skills are off the charts. And he's thankfully, he's been there to help me with a lot of algorithms and stuff. So it's been awesome. That was a great presentation. And I mentioned in the chat, I can't wait to hang up so I can go to PowerPoint.
Yeah. Well, good. That's great.
It's funny how this presentation has morphed so much into everybody wanting to dive into PowerPoint.
Yeah. Well,
I did too.
I could show, I think I could find that. There's actually a lot more that you can do. If you kind of think about using negative space in that. So if you will give me 1 second.
Let's do it.
Tim,
I've actually made
do it.
like a lot of different icons that are kind of specific, because working for a well servicing company, nobody is putting out like rig icons or things like that.
It's like it's like notes. If you take an image and you put it in notes, you right click on the note on an image, you can pull the text off of the image.
Yeah.
That's pretty freaky.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's kind of handy, but yeah, there's some.
It has come out in handy very many times.
Yeah. Here, let me share this. So again, not all these are super winners, but get down to some of these that are a little more intricate. So this is a graphic of an H2S monitor, and if you kind of click on this, you can kind of see that there's just all these different shapes, and basically just using negative space to kind of mimic that see-through thing. This one I like. It's like this. So yeah, you can kind of see what I'm doing with this, but this is a tubing elevator, it's called. It's a very specific piece of equipment that nobody's going to make an icon for. But basically, I was able to make icons for our maintenance apps, so that there's like a picture of that thing or something that represents that thing. And again, these take a little more time. Like I think on average, it was about a half an hour per icon, depending on how much detail that you want to put in there. I mean, yeah, fire extinguisher. That's. But yeah, so that's, again, this is all PowerPoint. It's quite the graphical tool. it's a kind of a hidden gem there. So,
but we're all joking. We're going to induct PowerPoint as part of the Power Platform family as of today.
It
Yeah,
fits, right? It fits.
got my
It
vote.
fits.
I'm for that.
We'll put it on the Power Platform ideas, or like Power BI ideas or something.
Yeah.
At PowerPoint
I think it
UG
deserves to
on
be
Twitter.
there. So
Yeah, those PowerPoint guys were ahead of their game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's right. That's right.
Well, Tim, that was awesome. Does anybody else have questions? We'll give them like a few more minutes. We might
I
be
got a little
ending early
question.
tonight.
Did you have to do a lot of training with people when you rolled that out company wide for the first time? Or did people kind of get it?
Great question.
Yeah, that's a good question. So they basically got the use of the app, but the thing that was really tricky was actually just the setup of Power Apps on their phone. So because you have to authorize data sources and all that sort of thing, like that was actually the hardest part right there. So it's kind of funny, but I think, I mean, hopefully the design was easy enough that people got it, because most people have used phone apps and things. Funny enough, though, I mean, earlier on when I first started, I actually had to train people on forms that I'd built. And I had a whole session derailed because one of the guys didn't know what a mouse was or a mouse pointer or anything. He had literally never used a computer.
Whoa.
And it just took it all off the rails. And so we had to get way more basic. So I think part of that, the reason that it didn't maybe have so much trouble is because of all that groundwork that was kind of laid from back then. But yeah, it's great question.
All right. Anybody else? Put Tim in the hot seat.
Hey guys, this is Paul. I'm a first-time user to the Power Users group, so it's my first session.
Welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
Snaps.
Really good. Both sessions were awesome, so snaps to both everybody. Okay, so my question to Tim is, in your app, I saw that there was like a days on rig monitor that shows who was familiar with which rig type.
Yeah.
So my question is that an automatic feed? So if they show up on site, does that automatically go, or do they have to check into the app and say, I worked this day on the rig, or is it part of a scheduling system? How does that data get into the app?
That is a great question. So it actually comes from our work tickets. So basically the work order that they do each day. All that goes in to our system, and this basically has it's actually a SQL view that crunches all that stuff down and pulls it out. So it's pretty easy to do. So yeah, that's a great question. Basically all from work tickets and the line items that are put in there.
That's awesome. And then how much user adoption have you guys had for the app in terms of the stuff that's a little bit more manual that you have to type in, like the likes, the comments? Like, what side of adoption have you guys had since you rolled it out?
Yeah, that is a great question. So that's actually one big piece on that good catch form. Our guys hate forms. They don't want to do anything with forms. So that's been the tougher part of adoption. The likes and dislikes and even the comments, that's been pretty easy up until kind of the COVID-19 situation happened. And that, I think, for us being an oil and gas company, I mean, that was a pretty big hit. There's a lot of stuff there that kind of happened. So, but we saw an instant drop kind of when that situation took hold. So, yeah. So that's does that kind of answer that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The reason why I was asking is I'm going to work with some friends to start a new company, and I really like this badge system that you had. I was super interested. It looks awesome, and I was just thinking of ways to increase adoption of it as it gets rolled out. So that's why I was asking about manual interactions versus automated feeds to help populate, to garner some of those badges. So thank you very much for answering my question.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question.
Cool.
That's awesome. Anybody else? Play a small little violin.
I think you sparked a lot of creativity in a lot of people, Tim.
Yeah, this was awesome.
So.
Tim, you were great. I'd say Lucas as well. I mean, I think this was just a great show of why Power Platform matters. So thanks everybody that has been on the call, that joined us on their second round. Thanks, Mr. Bastian, for orchestrating such an awesome event and getting these great speakers together.